Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about an origin story, but it's not about a person or a country. It's about two fundamental ways of knowing that have shaped our entire world.
It starts with this simple but massive idea. For like 10,000 years, humanity has been powered by two great unseen engines. The first one? Well, that was the engine of structure. It was all about the how. How do we build things? How do we record things? How do we control our environment? This is the engine that literally built our world, piece by piece. But then there was this other engine, the engine of intuition. And it was obsessed with a totally different question. Why? Why connect with each other? Why feel things? Why are we even here? This engine didn't build the world we see, it dreamt of the world we feel. And for almost all of human history, these two engines, they've been running on totally separate tracks. Both powerful, sure, but both completely incomplete. So let's get into it. To really get how they split apart, we've got to go way back to a time before one of them even existed. All right, first up, the world of the heart. This is a time of living, breathing knowledge. We're talking long before anyone wrote anything down. So, think about it for a second. In a world with no books, no computers, no records, how did people know stuff? See, knowledge wasn't a thing you could just have. It was a process you had to live. It was this dynamic, breathing system. A dance wasn't just a dance. It was a lesson in how to build a house. A story around the fire wasn't just a story. It was the law, the history, and the spiritual map of the people, all rolled into one. And it stayed true because the whole community was a part of it, living it out every day. And this is a perfect example of what we're talking about, the ancient Egyptian idea of Ma'at. Now, Ma'at wasn't a list of laws you could just look up. No, it was this active, daily feeling of keeping the whole universe in balance. It was this sense of rightness that you had to live out every single moment in everything you did. And that right there shows you the big trade-off. On the one hand, this system was deep, meaningful, and it created incredibly strong communities. But, and this is a big but, it was unbelievably fragile. All that wisdom depended on being passed from one person to another. It could literally vanish in a single generation if something went wrong. It was powerful, but it just couldn't scale. And then something happened. A technology came along that was so revolutionary, it completely changed what knowledge even meant. This is where the shell is born. So around 3250 BCE in Mesopotamia, writing appears. But get this, it wasn't invented for poetry or deep thoughts. Nope, it was invented for spreadsheets, basically, for bureaucracy, counting grain, tracking supplies, writing down laws. And for the first time, the very first time in all of human history, a thought could be pulled out of a person's head and frozen in time. This created a massive paradox. Of course, write-in gave us permanence, stability. It let us build and manage huge, complex empires. But the cost was huge. A clay tablet could tell you that 5 jars of beer were handed out. But the why, the human story, the context, the reason, all of that was just gone, forever. And that's the key. That living, breathing process of Ma'at, that constant act of balancing the universe, it started getting turned into static lists, spells to be recited, official histories of kings carved into stone. The living process was literally frozen into a dead product. So you see, this wasn't just a new way to remember things. This was a whole new definition of what truth even is. And when these two worldviews, the living heart and the brand new shell, finally came face to face, they didn't just disagree, they collided. Think about it. These early writing systems were insanely complex. You had to memorize hundreds, sometimes thousands of different signs. This meant that reading and writing wasn't for everybody, not even close. It was for a tiny, powerful new class of people, the scribes. And for these new record keepers, truth was simple. It was whatever you could write down, file away, and check later. All of a sudden, history wasn't a shared story, it was just a list of kings. Law wasn't a community understanding, it was just scratches on a stone. The new rule was crystal clear. If it ain't written down, it didn't happen. And this is the absolute core of the split. From the perspective of a scribe, whose whole job is about order and records, an idea like Ma'at, a truth that has to be lived and felt, well, that's not truth. It's just chaos. You can't put it in a ledger. You can't audit it. To them, it was messy, primitive, it wasn't real knowledge. And just like that, oral traditions, with all their flexibility and community memory, they were totally devalued. They got dismissed by this new literate elite as just myths and folklore. And right there, the two paths were set. And so our two engines, the engine of structure and the engine of intuition, they began their long, separate journeys, each one building a completely different version of the world. The shell took the path of scalable power. It could build empires using permanent records, but it lost that living, adaptive wisdom. And the heart, it held on to its deep, contextual wisdom, but it gave up any chance of scaling that power. For thousands of years to come, the shell of knowledge would just get stronger and stronger, its logic more complex, its systems more powerful. And all that time, the heart of humanity would keep beating, whispering its truths through stories and art and rebellion. And its wisdom would become more and more urgent as the world built by the shell started to feel, well, a little colder. But that bridge, the bridge between the two, it wasn't built yet. The Great Archive had all the facts, but it was missing its why. And the dream had all the feeling, but it was missing its how. These two kin, now strangers to each other, just kept walking their separate paths, not even knowing they were really two halves of the same whole.